Stay tuned at the end of this episode for a special new theme song we made just for you.
Welcome back to Remembering Smallville,
a Smallville rewatch podcast. I'm Daniel.
I'm Nicole.
I'm Kim.
and I'm Brett.
We are in season 2. I hope you're having a lot of fun. I have actually relatable banter this time. So I wanted to talk about poetry, but not in the sense of classic poems. I want to know, when you listen to music, because that's kind of our modern poetry, right? Do you listen and pay attention to lyrics the first time you hear a song, or is it more of the music? And kind of talk about that. So what do you guys think?
I love this. First off, I'm so happy to be with you guys. It's been so long. When I listen to music, it's lyrics first.
Really? So you hear the lyrics and the music's kind of secondary?
I am obsessed with lyrics. I love music, first of all. It's a huge part of my life. And I love the beats of music and instruments, but I'm obsessed with a good lyric.
What kind of lyrics help you? Because, I mean, it's poetry at the end of the day. So what is it that does it for you?
Oh, I love when there's a good rhyme. I love when it has a good meaning. And I love when it's written creatively. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, no, totally. Like in, the song Never Enough from The Greatest Showman?
Yes.
The way that she rhymes ittle and little. She's like, but ittle and then little. Like, that's a very, very clever. You never really hear people rhyme those two together.
Yes.
What about you, Nicole?
I don't listen to music. Literally. So if I have a choice of audio entertainment, music is not even a thing I'll think to do. I like music. If it's on in the grocery store, I'm not like clawing my ears out, but I don't turn to music as a source of entertainment. I don't think about music. I can't hear all the different instruments. Daniel will be in the car. He'll put on a song. And he'll say, "Can you hear that?" I don't even know what he's asking me to listen for. And I'm like, "No, I just hear that one thing right at the top, the obvious thing. I don't know what I'm supposed to be hearing."
She just hears the melody. She won't hear any.
I'm just not classy enough. I don't have the skills.
That is not it.
I just don't care.
I don't play any musical instruments or anything like that.
I just don't. Music's not my thing. Don't know.
When I was
amazing.
younger, I definitely did not listen to the lyrics. It was all about the music. And there were definitely some surprises when I started listening to the lyrics I was listening to on a regular basis. But as I've gotten older, I really enjoy the lyrics, sometimes of the songs I used to listen to when I was younger. And I find it really entertaining. So I like lyrics that are unique. And so I'm going to give you an example. And this is not one you'd expect, but if you've ever listened to Reliant K, Reliant K has some creative lyrics. So not to get myself blasted by anybody, but there's a song called Mood Rings.
It's the best.
It is so entertaining to listen to. If you haven't heard it, please listen to it. Very entertaining. The last part of the song, I'm just going to read the lyrics for you. So it's mood ring, oh tell me will you bring the key to unlock this mystery of girls and their emotions, play it back in slow motion so I may understand the complex infrastructure known as the female mind. Throwing that into a song is just like, it's not the normal song that you hear. And the whole song is really fun. And then the other thing that I do now, and it's with my kids and my wife, poor things, they all have to hear it. But we'll be listening to a song in the car, and I love a good bridge in the song.
Every time. He's
so
like, bridge.
So we'll be in the car, like jamming out, and I'll just scream out, bridge! Give me the bridge!
Yeah.
And a good bridge in a song is, to me, what defines lazy writing versus creative writing. That's a big divide.
It has
you get
to have a
see.
good bridge, yeah.
See, my problem is when you read those lyrics, I did not comprehend a single word you just said. I can't absorb it. I don't know what's wrong with me.
She has to listen to a song multiple times to absorb the lyrics.
It takes me a long time. And then so I have there's some songs that I just love based, whether it's the music, whether it's the
memories,
the words, whether it's related to something in life that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let me read the first verse of this song, and I think you'll get it from them.
Okay. You were reading it a random part of it.
Yeah. So let me read the first part. We all know the girls that I am talking about. Well, they are time bombs and they are ticking. And the only question is when they'll blow up. And they'll blow up. We know that without a doubt. Because they're those girls. Yeah, you know those girls that let their emotions get the best of them. And I've contrived some sort of a plan to help my fellow man. Let's get emotional girls to all wear mood rings. So that we'll be tipped off to when they're ticked off. Because we'll know just what they're thinking. It's like, it is.
That's pretty good.
It's a super fun song.
The answer to that song is Taylor Swift's 22. I'm feeling 22. I'm like, Taylor, what are you talking about? This is why Mood Rings exist by Relient K. Daniel's the most musical in this whole group. Please tell us.
That's funny. Music is actually primary for me to lyrics.
How did we get married?
Lyrics come secondary.
Opposites find each other, don't you know, Nicole?
It's so true. So music is a huge part of my life. I love listening to music. I love all kinds of music. I struggle a little with country just because there's nothing in my growing up culture that relates to country, so it just doesn't touch me. I like music to make me feel something, and that usually comes from the actual musical part. I consider music its own poetry. And so when you add lyrics on top of that, they're usually secondary to me. But yeah, I'm a huge metalhead too. I love metal music because it's so musical. A lot of people wouldn't think so, but it really, really is. One really fun thing is that Nicole and I will play this game where I play a instrumental song that sounds like a movie soundtrack. I ask her, okay, what's going on with this music? What is this the background music for? And then she closes her eyes and she'll be like, we're in the ocean? And then she like starts telling this story as she listened to this music. It's actually a really, really fun
And you
game.
make it up?
It's a really fun game. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
my God.
it's
really
just
fun
kind of
game.
what the music tells her that might be happening if that
It's
was
really,
the
really
backtrack
fun.
to a movie, right?
Oh.
Which is why music is poetry. It
Yes.
does make you feel.
I am playing that game. That is so cool.
It's a really fun game. So Nicole can do that really well. So she's more musical than she leads on, but it's one of my favorite things because they are never things that I think of. So when I play a song, it makes me think of certain things in that way, and then she has a completely different outlook. So it's a really, really interesting game to play. You kind of get to understand how people think, because music will introduce colors and images into your head that you may, especially instrumental music. I'm a huge fan of the poetry of music, which is why I wanted to talk about it in this episode.
Speaking of music, in this beautiful day and age that we live in, 2024, there's this thing called AI songs. If you've never played around with AI generated songs, you're sure missing out on a whole lot of fun. So I went to a website called Suno and I entered in that I wanted it to write me a cute little song about 4 friends doing a podcast about Smallville. And it wrote a great song. So I'm going to play you guys a little snippet of it, and then we'll play the whole thing at the end of the episode. So stick around and listen to that. So here's just a little taste. It's called Smallville Nights.
I'm so ready.
I'm so excited.
4 friends on a mission. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim.
So great.
Smallville every week. The podcast a gem.
Yeah, it is.
Smallville nights we laugh out loud.
Yeah.
We're all banging our head.
headbanging.
Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In your world we find our thrill.
That is so fun.
I love it so much. So anyway, dear listeners, at the end of the episode, we'll play the full song for you to enjoy and listen to. We might even also post it as a single because it's incredible.
It's awesome. Also, key point, it does have a bridge. Score!
Yeah, that's a really cool thing that AI can do now. It's pretty incredible. So,
They can write our poetry for us. Yeah. Speaking of poetry,
yes, let's talk about Nocturne.
we interrupt this premium program for this special announcement. We need you to follow us on social media. Our link is in the description. Today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 5, Nocturne.
In this episode, Lana receives a mysterious love note / poem from a mysterious boy named Byron. Turns out he's been locked in a cellar, so Clark has to heroically save him. That opens a whole can of worms. Meanwhile, Martha starts working for Lionel.
This is a really interesting episode.
You guys, I freaking love this episode. Brett does not agree.
I don't like this episode, and I can tell you right now, Daniel and I are going to have a couple cringe moments as we discuss this episode because
so
we
excited.
know that Nicole has made connections to Twilight.
Nicole, I thought about you this whole episode. Okay, we open this scene on a cemetery that's, of course, misty. And we have Lana riding her horse.
in the middle of the night.
Hasn't she learned her freaking lesson not to go anywhere in Smallville at night alone?
It made me think, like, when you're recording an episode, right? They're like, oh, the cemetery always has to have mist.
And
So they
Yeah.
have their
fog.
smoke machines.
There's fog rolling in.
Oh, man. It's, typical of Lana. She's always visiting her parents' grave. It's just what she does.
The grave is there during the day, woman. Go during the day.
Alone at
I
night.
know.
Maybe she's a little goth girl at heart and she likes to be there at night. I don't
can
know.
see that.
So many questions, though.
Yeah.
There would be a large hesitation for me to accept a note that was left for me on my parents' gravestone that they knew I'd be there. Immediately, this is freaky.
Should raise your heckles, right? Heckles.
So here's a tip for those of us who like to do weird things at night. In the worlds of safety, if Jeff, our policeman friend, was here, he would tell us that it's best not to have a very strict, predictable schedule of where you go and where. I'm really bad at this, but I only go like 2 places: work, home, and I guess the craft store. But
Wait,
If-
Nicole's
what?
going to get murdered in the crowd.
But Lana's going to get murdered in a graveyard because she's
Yep.
so predictable that this kid has obviously snuck out a bunch and knows that she's always there at this certain time on this certain day.
And can trust that the letter's not going to just get rained on for 2 weeks before she comes
Right,
back. Like, he
right.
clearly knew.
She's so predictable that she's been doing this for so long that a random kid with no social skills can find her that easily.
Upping the creep factor more, Byron spends his whole life basically in his basement.
Yeah.
And the only girl that he knows to find is Lana.
In the
How did he
graveyard.
find her?
Because he goes
only
to
comes out at
it's because he
night.
goes to look at his headstone.
We'll talk about that. We will talk about
Yeah.
that.
I
Why
don't-
he comes out at night and why he has a headstone.
So I literally wrote this down because it was my favorite in this scene. That Byron trips, falls, rolls over, and some creepy guy stands over him and shoots him in the face.
I know.
I know, it was intense. I was like, wow, he just murdered someone.
Well, you hear like wolves howling.
Yeah.
And I wrote like wolves in Kansas.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It's just like his
Dog.
his mean German shepherd that the dad has raised to attack anyone who comes near.
To howl when Byron escapes.
But there were multiple wolves howling.
I know it doesn't make any sense.
And
agree.
I want to bring out there are wolves in Smallville. Stay tuned
Not
for a
yet.
few episodes.
Ooh,
That'll
I'm
get
excited.
explained.
I know. I thought of that. No. Anyway, the dad takes Byron and takes him and throws him down into the cellar.
Father knows best, son. Like,
and he threatens to kill him. Like, if you escape again, I'll kill you. It's horrible.
so here's a plot thing that I really don't like. The episode is trying to fool you into thinking that the parents are like super bad people when they don't act like there's
Yes.
like there's not the same thing later, right? It's this whole thing to protect everybody and like what he is, and the way they filmed this for the first half of the episode, I feel like it tried too hard to make you hate the parents.
Well, it's from
kind of-
Byron's point of view.
Yeah, I guess.
And maybe to trick you because it feels very like a horror-esque.
And I think the dad is
Episode.
verbally abusive.
Well, yeah, but the way that they describe how they feel about it later when they're actually opening up about it does not.
The mom, you mean?
Yeah.
Because the dad's always a dick about it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Not that I think that the parents are justified or great for doing it how they're doing it or whatever, but it still just seemed a little extreme to me.
For someone that's seen it for the first time, I was definitely like, oh, they wanted it to feel like a horror episode.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to trick us. And we're like, oh, okay. They're actually really protecting their son.
Creepy.
So this well, you guys, this show aired October 22nd.
Oh, so it's like a Halloween
2002.
episode.
This is
So
their
I think it's a
Halloween
Halloween
episode.
episode.
Okay, that would make sense.
I wonder if they ever filmed things a little out of order or, filler ones like this that could have happened any time in the episode, really.
These can't though. They all connect now because Martha and Lionel, like,
Oh, that's
these
true.
all know.
Oh, they
None
must
of
have
these
just
are
had that
standalone.
planned out really well.
Oh, I'm
then.
sure they do. I'm sure they do.
So I was super confused. I was like, he got shot in the face. Oh, he was tranked.
yes.
Yeah.
And now his dad locks him in the cellar. I was
Yes.
like, what is going on?
Did you believe when Byron handed him that little like letter opener when he was like, "With this, father"?
Wait, what?
His dad asked him, "How did you get out?" And he like looks around and he grabs like a little like knife and he goes, "I picked the lock." Did you believe him?
Yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Turns out that's not how it's been going down.
Nope. I wrote it down how he was getting out. He Shawshanked it. And what
I
did
wrote
you
that
say?
down. Yeah.
She said Monte Cristo.
Yes, yes.
So after the intro, we get into the high school and we find out that the letter that she picked up was actually a love letter or like a secret admirer letter. And so the plot thickens a little bit.
Clark does not appreciate the letter. He doesn't understand poetry like me. Clark
He
and I
was
both be
jelly.
like, this is garbage. A side note on this scene, Chloe is like thrusting her sexy shoulders at Clark. I don't know what her deal is. She's like looking flirty and doing little movements.
Playing with her hair.
Yes. Her pheromones must be just raging out of her.
In her dress with pants.
Again, yes.
Anyone else catch the lovely reference? I almost forgot. Clark Kent, the Man of Steel.
Oh, it was
I
everywhere.
know. I was like, really kill me.
Oh. We thought we got away from it in season 1. We told you it was a lot in season 1. They still have it in season 2, but it's not as heavy.
I loved it.
It felt pretty heavy to me.
There's a
Yeah.
heavier episode coming up, but
Yes.
he's so funny. And then the awkwardness at the end of their little conversation where that felt really real to me, which I appreciated.
So let's have a quick discussion. What's the difference between a stalker versus a secret admirer?
Ooh.
If they're cute or not.
Okay. If you're attracted to them or not.
Right, yeah. There's a meme of this where it shows like a lady at her desk at work and a really attractive guy comes up to her and says, "Hey, that dress is really nice." And she's like all flirty. And then it shows the same scene with like an Uggo guy saying exactly the same thing. And she's like, HR? That is the difference.
It's like the meme that's like fonts matter. It's like, I will always find you in heart lettering. And
Yeah.
then creepy lettering, I will always find you.
I think so.
That's the only difference?
I think so, really.
I mean, intention.
I think intention's a big part of it. And I think stalking, people know your routine. They find you. They follow you. An admirer can know you and secretly admire you without knowing your schedule, without knowing where you live.
Well, they
So
might.
is that the difference between Clark watching Lana through a telescope
Ding, ding, ding.
or Byron watching Lana through the cemetery?
Yeah. Byron didn't creep me out. I didn't really get stalker vibes
No,
from him.
Byron's a troubled soul.
Yeah, I
and
like Byron. He's
that's
darling.
the one girl he's ever seen in his life, probably, and so he's really excited. But that's
He's
a
like,
really good question.
A girl that only comes out at night, just like me, and she's beautiful. I'm going to write her poetry.
I'd love to know what our listeners think. Do you think there is a difference in that we haven't spoken about?
Stalker versus admirer.
Yeah, please make a comment.
Lex likes the poem. He says poetry is seduction.
Of course.
He's classy. He's had a highbrow education, so he gets poetry, unlike us garbage people.
Well, I wrote a note here. Who even likes poetry? Just listen to emo music. It's literally the same.
We all do it secretly in our bedrooms.
Oh, I love me some dashboard confessional.
I know. Like when I was hearing this poetry, I'm like, if you took some of the floweriness out of it, it's emo music.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because country is southern emo music.
I was going to say, or country, a country song.
Yeah.
For me, poetry is like a Shel Silverstein book.
Yeah.
Anyone? Where the Sidewalk
Yeah,
Ends.
oh, yes.
Yes.
That is pure poetry.
Upside down
What
walk.
do you need? Yes.
Well, speaking of like the whole difference between Clark and stuff, we do get this really funny moment where Clark's confronting Lana about this, and he's like, "Yeah, I just worry about someone sneaking around watching you." And Lana's like, "Really, Clark?"
Yeah.
Everybody
She calls him
knows.
out.
I know.
Yeah.
And then we get Lionel at the mansion firing Tad.
I hated this groveling that's being done. I'm just like, oh, don't grovel to Lionel.
No. And that's his fourth one in a month, meaning he's fired a new assistant every week. 7 days, long enough to even know if someone's good or not. I guess really it is.
Well, I mean, technically, they say that somebody determines whether or not they like you within the first couple of minutes. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
true.
I just started a new job, and they do contract to hire. And they treat it like a 6-month interview. And so some people do like having like a long-term, like see how you are day to day and see what your consistencies are, what you're really like when you get into the grind. Because even an interview can't tell you that really. That can be appreciated. But yeah,
Yeah.
Lionel, he does seem like the type of person who,
Knows what he wants right at that moment. He's not going to change his mind.
right.
Once Lionel's done with you, he's done with you
But
forever.
he's also probably got red tape where he probably has to hold on to somebody for longer than a day before he gets rid of them. I don't know.
Well, just because you go to Yale doesn't mean you're going to be a good assistant.
Yeah.
I would be a great personal assistant.
Yes, she would.
I would be so good at it. It's like my dream job.
You would be so good.
Do you guys love Lionel's blind acting? Because I freaking love it.
It is
He does
so good.
so good.
I know.
We just watched Daredevil, Brett and I,
Uh-huh.
and he does just as good as,
Oh,
and that's
Daredevil.
amazing.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I really loved Lionel's quote here where he's talking to Lex and Lex is complaining about criticism. And Lionel says, I wasn't criticizing, I was critiquing. Well,
Ish.
I
You,
taught...
you can paint it whatever color you want. It's still rude.
Well, so I taught ballet for a little while, and there is a fine line between criticizing and critiquing, right?
Well,
Part of
saying
it is
that's
tone.
you're terrible versus you need to turn your foot this way. Big difference.
Yes, but it's also your tone matters, your context matters, all those things. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, the delivery is a big part of that. Which Lionel has had a very tactless delivery to his child. He's
Yeah.
a very tactful boss. He's not a tactful, not a tactful father.
No, he's not. So we get to finally see the backyard of the mansion.
It's great. I love how it looks. Lionel's trying to read a newspaper with his 2002 technology AI manual robot reader, and he gets really pissed at it because he doesn't like how it does it, and he chucks it. And Martha shows up, and you guys, I have a hot take.
Okay.
I want them to be together. I want Martha and Lionel to date. I think
Nicole,
they would
you
be
have future
incredible.
season context though that Kim doesn't.
I don't know,
But
just
I kind of,
you get it right.
yeah. And
Oh,
I
you
kind
do?
of know a little bit. So here's the
Oh.
thing. First time seeing this, I caught on real quick that Martha was going to be his new assistant.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
I think they should date. I
But they
think
do have chemistry
Their
and it-
chemistry
ew.
is incredible.
I
I,
don't like it.
freaking love it.
Oh.
No, I love it.
Well, imagine if Lionel were a good man,
Okay.
you know,
Right.
or imagine if he were tempered. And clearly, you'll see this more in the next episode, 2 episodes from now as well. Lionel has a thing for redheads.
Yeah, he
Yes.
does. Oh, he
really
does.
does.
I'm sorry. Everyone has a thing for redheads.
It's not even the first time we've seen it.
Yeah. But this really confirms it. I don't even know if he really fully... No, he totally remembers. I'm sure he remembers that Martha's a redhead. And I think that plays into part of why he's so interested in hiring her, too.
You guys, the chemistry on screen is just
Palpable.
lightning.
Uh-huh.
It's so good. And I think part of it is that Jonathan and Martha aren't super getting along. Like, they're kind of fight about it. And it's so
Which
annoying
breaks my
because
heart.
Jonathan's like, no, that's not good. And she's like, we can't pay our bill.
Yeah.
This job would allow us to do that. I'm doing it.
Yeah, but if your wife was having that type of palpable chemistry
Well, he
with her
doesn't know that.
boss, ugh.
I mean, that part isn't great.
Well, I think some of it comes from the fact that Lionel is a more intellectual equal to Martha
Yes.
than Jonathan is.
Yes.
Jonathan
Yeah.
is a far better person, better man. He would be a better in every single way. But clearly, Martha is not intellectually challenged at all doing
farm work.
farm
Yeah.
work.
So of course he'd be intimidated
Yes.
by
Yeah.
Lionel.
But then here comes Lionel, and it's somebody that she can actually like pull that out of, and that brings joy. I get that when I get to talk to fellow software engineers, because I can't talk about this stuff with anyone, because if I were to talk about certain things with you guys, your eyes would all glaze over. Brett gets that with, investment stuff, right? Exactly the same thing. So we all have things that we love that sometimes if it's a highly intellectual thing, or if it's an uncommon thing that not everyone thinks about or learns about, you need somebody to talk about it with. And this is what Lionel is for Martha, which is partly why she would love to have this job.
Yeah, you find out future episodes, this isn't a spoiler. Martha comes from Metropolis and comes from a high education, high profile situation. So that was
she
her
was
life
bound
before.
to be a lawyer.
which
yeah.
was so fun to learn. Brett, I'm curious, how do you feel like Lionel's doing with pretending to be blind?
I think he does a really good job. I think his acting's really great. The glasses always help.
Yes,
Actor
and
do
his
that.
cane is nice.
But I think he pulls it off. I think it's very believable. I don't think there's any doubt that he's blind.
I think Jonathan Glover is hands down one of the best actors
on this show.
And in general.
He's so good.
I'm surprised you don't see him in tons of other things. Maybe he just hasn't done a lot of acting since then. I don't know. There's also future episodes of Smallville where his acting takes levels.
It's gonna blow your mind, Kim.
Oh,
It
I'm
will
so
blow your
excited.
mind.
So-
It's excellent. So look forward to that.
You got to see a little piece of it in that flashback episode, which we'll talk about in a
Yeah.
couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So this next scene, very small, Byron's mother comes downstairs and offers him a book that she found at the library. And Edgar Allan Poe is a little too on the nose for me for a Halloween episode.
Yeah.
So when I saw Byron running through the forest at the beginning and then his white skin, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, is he a vampire or a werewolf? What's going on?
Right? So
Twilight.
okay. So let's say you have a child who is socially awkward. So that's enough of a problem for you, I guess, to put him in an experimental study that creates some random allergic reaction to the sun. Can you guys think of a place that's under a near constant cover of clouds that he could go?
Forks?
Yeah.
Oh, that's how we're tying it in.
All he would have
no.
to do is move. He could move there.
It's true. They're in a pretty sunny state.
300 days a year he can be outside during the day. He'd fit right in. The way he talks, the way he looks, the way he dresses.
acts.
Fit right in.
I know.
He and Edward could be best friends.
They would get along great. They'd sit there in silence and just exist in the shade.
They could even adopt him into the family.
I
They
know.
both enjoy 200-year-old poetry.
Yes.
Daniel is literally trying to shake off his quivers right now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the visuals of the scene, though. Did you notice what color the lights are in the basement?
Blue.
They're all blue.
And
except
I said,
for that
scratch
globe.
that. He's a vampire, not a werewolf. Because of the blue light. Like, look at this. And I swear that mom actress plays the same role in everything
Oh,
she does.
she absolutely does. And you can tell that she's also abused because she's like,
Yeah.
just keep your mouth shut. Just do what your dad says and everything will be fine.
And both of us will be okay.
yeah, because she's terrified of the dad too.
Byron says, normal kids aren't hunted by their fathers. Okay.
Why
You're
would you
not
choose
a normal kid. You clearly have some problems.
Okay, your son is already depressed that lives in the dark. Why would you choose Edgar Allan Poe?
Because she's an idiot and bought it at the used bookstore and didn't think about it.
I
Shel
choose, like,
Silverstein lady, give him some Shel.
Sunshine in your life.
Yeah.
Like, give him a comedy book or something. Like, get him a
Yeah.
Jack Handy
Jokes.
novel. Yeah.
I love
Teach him
it.
stand up in his basement by himself.
Magic tricks.
Yeah, close up magic.
That way he goes to nightclubs and he can do his show. See?
Yeah.
Nope, you've set him up for failure.
I would totally be like, let's go to a nightclub together.
Yeah.
So then we see that he really did Shawshank himself out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we get into the next part where Lana's asleep.
On the gravestone.
Now-
waiting for him.
I have a question, Brett and Kim. Your
Okay.
parents of a teenager who is the same age as Lana right now. If you were dead and you were on the other side and you saw your daughter fall asleep alone at night on your gravestone, how hard would you try to break through the veil and haunt the crap out of her to wake
I'd
her
be
up and get her to go
freaking
home?
with lightning on her pinky toe, like lightning, zap, zap.
Go home.
You'd be so angry, wouldn't you?
Oh my gosh!
I want to know how Nell is just okay with this.
Right. I wrote, why are these parents, Nell and Martha and Jonathan, just so unaware of their children?
You could hear somebody like a Gen Z person be like, well, it's just the 90s and early 2000s. We could go outside and not fear. And like,
This is post 9/11 by a year. Come
Yeah.
on. We
That's
were on
what-
high alert.
this is what Brett said. I often fall asleep on my parents' grave alone in a graveyard.
In the fog.
like what an uncomfortable spot to fall asleep in and position.
Did you notice the way that Byron falls?
Like an
Runs
idiot.
away.
It's like he's never been outside before.
I'm going to argue your point from our lovely Gen Xers that it was just the 90s and we grow up this way. You could do whatever you want. I did grow up this way a little bit. But the truth was, it was still be home by this time. They didn't care where you were then,
Yeah,
but
you
you
just
had to
be
be home.
home.
This whole go out all night, always, even in Kansas, it's weird.
Yeah, it seems funny to me, but
Yeah.
Okay.
you know,
So-
because movie.
Byron trips, right?
Like a
And
moron.
Clark shows up like a stalker.
I know.
Okay. But then did you notice that she friend zones him hardcore?
Oh, at
She
the coffee
does.
shop? I know.
Yeah,
And
they go back to the coffee
Byron
shop.
touches the back of his head and he was like, oh no, a bit of blood. I guess I'll pass out now. So he passes out. I'm assuming Clark carries him like a baby all the way to the Talon.
Why
Because
not?
that's what you do when someone hits their head, passes out, and their head's bleeding. You don't bring them to a hospital. You don't check with anyone. You don't tell parents at 1 a.m. You
just
go back to
straight
the coffee
Talon
shop.
for 3 pieces of cake and some iced coffee.
Because that heals everything.
Duh. I mean, haven't you ever been like, you know what? I just need 3 pieces of cake right now.
Yeah.
And it heals your soul.
I was watching this episode trying to stay awake, and I was like, yeah, I need more treats.
Yeah.
So we do get to the Talon. So do girls actually like having poetry spoken at them?
Frick no. Get
you
that
know,
away from me.
It is a little weird to me. I'm a super big romantic, and I
Don't
know.
just quote Shakespeare at me, you dip. Do something better.
Yeah.
Cake,
Like,
money.
I come up to you and be like, but soft.
Cake
What
money.
light through yonder window breaks? It is the east and Nicole is the sun.
I
And
like,
then she
go
slaps you
home.
in
Okay.
the
I
face.
just don't
Okay,
appreciate
but
it.
let's flip this and make it a little more modern. How do you feel about a love letter or a
Yeah.
love note?
So Brett is really good at this, and I think it's so sexy.
I like a love note with someone that I've established love with.
Yes.
If a rando is giving me love notes, I'm like, get out of my face. I don't need this.
like you
are
don't even
you?
know what my breath smells like in the morning.
Yeah.
So don't even with me.
No, you don't love me. So it just feels disingenuous.
When I first met Nicole, I played music at her and sang. She didn't give a crap. She did not
No.
care one iota.
I hated it.
Brett was super romantic with all the ladies he dated. Were you this way, Daniel?
Yeah.
So I think that's why they married us, because we were the first girls that are like, shut up. Like,
No.
you can't win me like that. Yeah.
She even wrote in her journal about how like unimpressed she was.
Because I was like, he's clearly doing this piano playing, singing to try to get attention. But
Yeah.
that's not what I don't want a guy who's just going to like sing and dance at me.
Yeah.
A year ago, this is 6 years into our marriage. She's like, "Why don't you play more songs for me and stuff?" And I'm like,
Because you shut me down.
Right. So it is different
Because it wasn't for me,
Right.
Nicole. It was for that chick with the face over there.
No, I
And the
think it's a
boobs.
little bit more than that. It's and
That's what it was.
I was going to say to get in your pants. So, you
Yeah.
know.
so there's the I'm trying to win you with that, and now it's
Like,
I
show
want
me
you
you
to
love
show
me.
me you love me.
Exactly. There's a big
Yes.
difference. So
It's
that's
a-
why
it's a
if I got a
different
love
thing.
note from Daniel now, I would love it and take it to heart and know he meant it. But I don't want some random dude who I met in a graveyard eating my cake to tell me he likes me.
And there's the difference. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Eating your cake.
Chocolate cake.
"Oh dear, that did not make it better."
Oh.
Speaking of chocolate cake,
Nicole's liking this conversation more.
No, I literally meant eating chocolate cake. He eats 3 pieces. Did you hear her?
Oh.
I wasn't thinking that.
I think Byron is darling. Even his like clothes are like vampire.
Yeah.
Like, look at his scarf.
And the way he speaks is so proper. He
Yes.
says yes. Who says yes?
Yeah.
I know.
All the way through.
Yeah.
No one.
they're more like Jekyll and Hyde clothes, though.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what this is. This is a Jekyll and Hyde type of thing in a
I
way.
love that.
And it's funny because Pete Ross makes the reference later about it,
So after the milk delivery arrives at the Talon,
which is at 4:45, which blows my mind. What teenagers are up till 4:45 at night on a school night or maybe a Friday? I don't know.
Yes.
could be a Sunday, Saturday night. Who knows?
Still.
Yeah.
We get back to Byron's house. They try to take him in because he's like, "Oh, I've got to go. Like my dad will find out." And then
And the mom's like, Byron, hurry, get inside.
And the dad's like, I got my gun.
You better not catch me around your son again, Mom. You're trespassing. I'm going to shoot you in the face. You don't get out of here.
How long his rifle was?
His shotgun.
yeah,
And they got the dog barking, and it was very intense. Because of that moment and the panic that Byron has and just the threats, Clark and Lana go straight to the farm. And they interrupt a conversation that Martha and Jonathan are having about her working at the mansion.
But they're not worried where Clark is.
No.
no. Where were you till 4:45? Oh no.
But she goes, good thing I didn't know. I would have been worried. Girl, you should have known. Martha, you should know where your kid is. At the very least, when you woke up to like, Clark, time for school or whatever.
I wish my kids were made of iron like Clark. I would never worry about them.
Wouldn't you want to know where he is?
yes.
though?
Yes. but I'd worry a lot less.
And I just love that they go straight to the mom and dad, to Jonathan and Martha, and
Who then go straight to the police.
We met this kid and we think he's being abused. And then they're like, well, let's get the police involved. And they go to do a wellness check, and the stupid police officers just go, okay, you say he's not here.
Well, he gets a little redeemed when he says, I need to get a warrant now.
Yeah.
But still,
I don't think you do. If you have two eyewitnesses
probable
who say,
cause should
you
let
have
it
two
happen.
eyewitnesses who say, we met this kid in a graveyard, he ate some cake, here's his bloody rag from his head injury, we drove him not 2 hours ago into this house and the dad threatened us with a gun.
If you guys know the rules on this, please subscribe.
We know his name is
and
Byron.
comment.
He loves poetry. Here's all this information we've learned from chatting with him for the last 2 hours while he ate all this cake and coffee. Go freaking find him.
But I am fairly certain they would still need a warrant. It wouldn't be hard to get because of that.
To
because
go
of all
in.
this.
I mean, yeah.
But with that,
But you'd think they'd get the warrant before showing up?
No,
No?
not for a wellness check.
Oh,
They
okay.
would go and just, I mean, most people, right? If a police officer came to your house today and said, hey, can I come in and look? You're not guilty of anything. Sure. Come in and look for what you need. But if you don't let them in, they can't force themselves in without that warrant.
Yeah, that's true.
So at this point, I still didn't know what Byron was.
Well, no.
No, because Kim actually quoted it just in the moment before with the dog barking as they're leaving there. She said, oh, yep, that's my brother Midnight. She thought he might have been a werewolf. Because of the howling, because of everything that led up to it.
But he's stuck as a wolf forever, maybe.
The policeman, Ethan, goes for the wellness check, and the reason why they won't let them in is because they say, well, our son died.
And look how they look in the doorway, like the shadows on their face. It's such a Halloween episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the mom is all nervous, and the dad's like, you're making my wife sad. Get out of here.
And it's a little ridiculous.
I'm glad that Ethan says, I'll get the warrant, and then they do get the warrant, and they don't find anything because Byron is chained to the basement.
They
Yeah.
bolted it down under a rug. You can't find our secret door to our basement.
But luckily, we have investigator Chloe to help. So when we get to the torch after showing up at Byron's house, we have Clark and Chloe trying to figure out who Byron is and all this stuff. And she can find anything, I swear. The internet isn't even as sophisticated at this time as it is now, and she can find anything. It's so funny.
That's because she has a connection with every single person in every single department in any institution in America.
I always love
Basically-
when she's looking on her computer. I'm like, what are you actually looking at? You're just ding, 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 typing.
Found it. Found his death certificate. I got it, everything.
In actuality, it would probably be emails that she responds
Oh,
to
yeah.
mostly.
Yeah, with attachments.
Yeah, emails with attachments are like, hey, here's the website. You can find it here, whatever.
They find out that he was in a study and that the doctor who signed his death certificate was in charge of the study. So it's a little fishy. And they know he's alive, and so they gotta go find him.
Yeah.
Then we get to the mansion.
You guys, did you notice the circle shot of this whole scene? The camera does a 360-degree circle around the piano while this whole conversation's going. It never stops moving. It's incredible filming.
My gosh.
No,
I'm
it's
watching it right
cinematography
now.
at its best.
It's so good.
Wow.
And it's clever enough never to show Lionel's hands, so you can't tell that he's really not playing unless you really, really, really pay close attention.
It's scenes like this that really make me wish in a different life that I was a cameraman. Just being able to operate the camera in a cool way.
Oh, yeah.
Nicole, Brent, and Daniel mentioned you don't see his hands, but you get to see everyone, and you keep going around, and the acting and the lighting
It's
and
so
everything.
good.
You're not catching the mics that are right over their heads. And
Yeah.
Lionel's playing the piano. Of course he plays the piano. And he's like in this creepy, like,
Lex does too, which you'll find out later.
Lex does
Really?
too. That's why it's in the
Oh.
mansion.
I have a piano and none of us play.
I just love, like, I don't even care what they're talking about. It just looks so good. But what they
Yeah,
are talking
that's
about
beautiful.
is Lionel is going to hire Martha, and Lex is like, you stay away from the Kents, you be careful. But who cares? It just looks so good.
And then look,
Yeah.
Lionel has an ancient Greek story to tell that's an analogy. Or
Always.
he and Lex always have some historical metaphor or analogy or whatever that they can tell
yes.
whenever it's any situation.
And their perspectives are both accurate from their view.
Yeah. It's
Love
so
this.
funny.
Yes, you're Prometheus trying to live among mortals when you're not meant to be. Yeah, and how did Prometheus end? Getting eaten alive by vultures. Like,
The only thing that I don't like about this scene is Lionel's clearly not playing the piano. He's feeling it, but his hands are just not in the right spot.
Oh, yeah.
At all. And that's okay. I'll take it.
But I do love his face.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
And how he's feeling the
he
music.
feels like he's playing the piano, but
Yeah.
he's not actually playing the piano.
So we get back to Byron's once again. We just break in whenever we want.
With Pete.
Yeah, Pete says, "Why are we waiting for the sheriff?" And Clark's like, "There's no time to wait. I must do it myself.
Yep.
I'm a hero."
It's so much fun to watch these scenes right now, though, because Pete knows what
Yes.
Clark
Yeah,
can
it
do.
helps.
I love it.
Clark
And he's
doesn't have
always
to
with
hide
him.
anything
He
anymore.
can actually sidekick.
Yes. Yes. Clark gets bit by their dog
Yeah,
and nothing
Daniel
happens.
got a little jump scare there when the dog comes out and bites him.
Oh, yeah.
And I've known this line. This line is ingrained in my memory. Pete says, "Well, you're a regular Dr. Doolittle."
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what it is, but that line has been in my memory for 20 years.
I love that. So he sees the trapdoor under the rug. Clark.
Well, that's his X-ray vision.
Yep.
They lift the rug, they break it open, and Byron's chained up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're chained? What?" And Clark breaks the lock, and Byron says, "How'd you do that?" He goes, "A rusty lock."
A rusty lock that your dad just
Okay.
His
just
great
welded down.
excuses.
And then they get out into the sun, and the sun turns him into Mr. Hyde.
Beast
Oh,
mode.
Yes. And it like burning him as he's turning.
But only in a few lines on his back.
yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I want them to mean something. I want those
Oh, yeah.
scars to
I thought they would.
but they're just nothing. Like, the sun alone is...
Well, it could be
Enough.
that they're there, but they're getting stretched out by his increasing
You think
mass.
they're stretch marks?
Could be.
Ooh.
It's hard to tell because it's kind of CGI makeup mixed. And
I
it's
just
a
want it
little
to
difficult.
mean something. I don't
Yeah.
want lines for no reason. They just felt unnecessary to me.
My favorite, as soon as I watched the change for Byron, first thing that came to mind was he got the Buffy treatment. He looks exactly
Yes.
like
Yes, the Buffy vampires.
Buffy
Yes.
vampires. That's exactly what this is.
It's so true.
And he gets super strength and he throws Clark across the yard.
Clark flies. And then he also attacks Pete. And Pete sadly does break his arm, one of his first big
Yeah.
traumas. It's a hairline fracture, but it hurts everywhere except his hairline.
Yeah, you find that out when we get to the hospital after this because Byron runs off and then Pete gets escorted to the hospital by Clark.
The funny part is Pete gets thrown into this car
Uh-huh.
and his arm doesn't even touch anything. It's at the back of his body.
I know.
He has like a hairline fracture on the back of his skull
Yeah.
before his arm, but that's okay. We don't want him too hurt.
Yeah.
So I have to
yeah.
ask you, Nicole, Kim,
Yeah?
shirtless Byron.
It's nice.
I liked it. It's just a very soft muscle.
It's very Twilight.
I loved it. Yeah. And here's the thing with Twilight, I have a complaint, right? He takes off his shirt in the second movie, Edward.
Yes.
He has hairy nipples.
Disgusting.
No. See, Byron, smooth.
Yes.
That's what a vampire needs.
This guy
Smooth
could have.
nipples.
This guy could have been Edward.
I want to be
Yeah,
straight up
yes.
clear on this that Kim does not have a problem with hairy chest if you're not a vampire.
If you're not a vampire, doesn't
Vampires
matter.
should have
it's
smooth,
just the look of
flawless
it.
skin.
It's just the look of it.
Yeah.
If you're
Well,
gonna
if you're
have
gonna
a
be
hairy
stoned-
chest, have a hairy chest.
'Cause
Don't
vampires
just
are
have
stone,
a
right?
plain chest and hairy nipples, right?
And a happy trail.
Go all the way or go none at all.
Yes.
Vampires are stone. What's your point?
And that's why they glitter. Hold on. I have opinions, okay?
Why
The
don't we
books-
make...
Fine.
Let's have a Twilight rewatch special
We're gonna have
thing.
to. I think the
At this
fans
point-
demand it.
Again, listeners, this is your fault. If you hate that they're talking about Twilight so
You should have
much...
commented. I gave
Yeah.
you a fair chance in season 1. This
Right.
is your fault now, boys.
So now season 2, we're almost, quarter of the way through, and we're all still talking about Smallville.
Just
I mean,
know if you
Twilight.
comment and don't like it, we're still going to do it.
It's not our fault. It's telling us to. Have you seen these episodes?
If you comment and send us money and tell us to stop,
Okay.
Then maybe.
I was going to say I'll do anything for money.
oh, speaking of doing anything for money,
Corporate Martha at the hospital. She is corporate.
She looks
You see
so
her
good.
clothes? She looks so cute in her corporate clothes.
after we're in the hospital, we do get to go to Byron's house where his mom is showing them and kind of
Jonathan
explaining
and Clark.
Yeah.
what the heck is going on.
Yep. Because
It's
Jonathan
really
comes and is
sad.
like, you need to tell us what's going on. And the dad isn't home.
Yeah, he's out looking for Byron.
Yeah. So the
Hunting.
mom's like, okay, I'll let you know, like, what's going on.
So he was in a study, and because he was antisocial, so they took him to get him some help. Which, if your kid's antisocial, don't take him to do experimental drugs.
Don't make him a lab rat.
No. So all the other boys in the experiment had the same side effect, and the doctor was trying to figure out a cure, but all the other boys died in the attempt to find a cure. And so the parents were like, "No, we'll just take him home. So they faked his death and they brought him into the cellar, and he cried and cried and cried.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
I want to know who designed the set. Did you guys notice the wooden owl at the 28-minute mark? Just an owl.
Maybe he loves owls.
It's very Edgar Allan
Yes,
Poe-ish.
this is Edgar
Yeah.
Allan Poe, the
They're
Raven.
nocturnal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at you, artsy
It's
fartsy.
gotta be that artsy fartsy. It has to be.
They go out at night just like him.
And the wolves. Oh.
Oh.
Ooh.
Sometimes I just want to remind everyone this is a WB show and it's a superhero show. There was no art needed.
Yep.
But they had to put it in because somebody might know. I don't know.
I think they just have someone do set dressing and they say, I don't know, nighttime creepy stuff. And they go, well, this will work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it may not be that deep. I think it's just you need to fill the set with stuff of a kid who's been down here for
I
what,
really hope it's that
5
deep.
years.
I think it just will make me happy if I ever
Yes.
found out that it's that deep.
Someone thought about
agree.
all the details.
Yeah.
Lana decides that she wants to participate in the hunt for a tacky boy Byron.
Oh, yeah.
A
She has
tacky
a soft
boy.
spot for his poetry.
Yeah, and she's like, I want to go help too. And Clark's like, he threw me across the yard and Pete's arm is broken. But go ahead, 100-pound girl. You can stop him. Because she kind of gets offended. Like, you want me to just sit here and pour coffee? And Clark should be like, yes. At nighttime, sure, let's go look when he's back to normal. But
Yes.
don't go now, you dummy.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that Lana doesn't have reason not to trust Clark. I understand that there's trust issues there. But this conversation gets really old to me. You didn't trust me. You don't
It
trust
really
me.
drags
You don't
out.
trust
It
Calm
me.
drags out for
down.
this whole season.
It's really annoying.
I'm not ready.
So
But luckily, Chloe comes to the rescue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something's going on. It's awkward.
Yeah, she saves them from the awkwardness, and we find out that Pete has sent out an SOS for his PS2. which
So she can't
love
help
that.
look. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I just picture that. It's such a teenage boy thing. Like, I need my PS2. I'm stuck at the hospital. Oh.
He shouldn't be stuck in a hospital for a hairline fracture, so he must have a concussion too,
Oh,
or else he wouldn't
maybe.
just be sitting in the hospital.
Well, he said everything was hurting except for his
Yeah,
hairline.
he must
so
have a concussion
his
from
whole body
slamming.
pain and everything must
Yeah.
be a reason for observation. But still, it's just great. Love it. And what a good friend Chloe is for going and doing that for him. I mean, they're clearly really, really good friends. And there's nothing sexual there at all. Like, there's no romance happening between Chloe and Pete. But
Yeah.
she still does stuff for him, which is great.
Yes.
So Lana is like, I'm going out. I'm gonna go find Byron. I can do it. I'm strong. You dummy.
She does in the graveyard.
Guess what he's looking at?
Visiting his tombstone.
His own tombstone.
Yeah. And what's crazy about Byron is he's totally aware and coherent. He's not like a beast like the Hulk where you can't reason with him or can't talk to him.
Yeah.
He's having full-on conversations. He knows who he is. He's aware.
Yeah.
He doesn't really remember it after the fact, but in the moment he's aware and can talk and reason.
That's very like Mr. Hyde. Mr. Hyde is not unintelligent.
Right.
True.
It's just that his adrenaline, because his adrenal gland is all messed up, he like rages out over nothing. Which I thought
Anger.
was interesting because he's not Hulk smash, I'm a monster, attack and pillage. He's just a guy
Yeah.
with some rage.
Yeah.
That leads us to getting to the mansion after this.
Yeah.
Well, he freaks out and he's like, I want you, Lana.
Yeah, because he's freaking out about the Luthers, because it's the Luthers who, were
Because Lana's a moron and tells him, we know what happened to you. It was the Luthers.
Yeah.
And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
yeah, and
So
then
he-
he throws her into a gravestone.
She gets
Concussion.
knocked out. So then he runs to the Luther mansion, right?
How did he know where it was? This is what I'm thinking. This is my thought process. He's like, the Luthers. And he's like, I don't know where they live. And so he goes to like an internet cafe and like in his
Prints
Hulky
out
rage,
his-
like Google's MapQuest, Luther mansion.
and he like breaks 3 of the keys on the computer keyboard.
Print address.
Like MapQuested it.
How else would he know where to go? Or is he like, excuse me, ma'am, in the street, do you know where the Luther mansion is?
Where Luther? Where Luther?
Turn right down the road. Exactly. And that's the only thing I can think of.
Small town. Everyone knows where the Luthor mansion is.
Exactly.
The
so
only
they help
mansion
him.
there.
And there's this funny thing where Clark is talking to Lex at the mansion. He's like, "Oh, well, my family doesn't fly much." And then Lex is like, "Oh, that's about to change." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the helicopter is coming to pick up Martha and Lionel to go somewhere, right?
A trip to Metropolis on my first day.
Yeah.
It does not matter how strong you are. You can't just hold down a helicopter if your weight doesn't
Yeah.
exceed its ability to lift you. So there's only one chance that his extra weight matters, and that's if with the 3 people in there, the helicopter was at full capacity, which I doubt. I get it. It had to be a whole thing showing how strong he is and stuff. But the only time I've seen that done right in a superhero thing was Captain America.
The Winter Soldier, yes.
But he's holding on to something. He's anchored with
Yeah.
one hand.
With the building.
And then he's holding,
Byron
then
is anchored with his rage.
Here's the thing. In fiction, if you have a place that is like Earth, or it's an Earth with superheroes, you still need to follow certain rules of physics.
Yes.
Yes, magic is a thing, superpowers are a thing, but the laws of physics still exist. They're just sometimes bypassed by other things, but that has to be still relatively believable so you can get that suspension of disbelief. This breaks it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's my nerdy moment.
Byron grabs the helicopter,
Keeps it
keeps
down.
it from flying, and Martha's like, "What the hell?"
Okay, imagine being blind and this
I
happening.
know. The acting is so good because he's just like,
Yeah,
what's
what's going on?
Yeah.
So then Clark shows up, right? Here's what went through my head. Oh no, don't speed run. Lionel will see you.
Right. But
And I was like, oh.
well,
no,
it's
he's
also
fine.
fortunate that Clark was at the mansion already.
Yeah, yeah.
Normally he's like somewhere completely different and just like has to bust in, but he was just like up the stairs.
Yeah.
So pretty good.
Okay, but the super speed, so problem I have here is the pilot is not taken out of the helicopter.
So I was right. He's
Does he
doing
not
it
go
in front of-
unconscious?
He was knocked out.
He's
Oh,
knocked
was
out.
he?
Yeah, because it was shaking around and he gets knocked out.
Like an
and-
idiot.
Oh,
Before
okay.
before Byron decided to use the helicopter propeller to cut the grass.
Yeah, I
don't know
saw
if
that.
you
He
Right.
like, hedges the grass.
I was like,
See that.
okay. That part makes a little bit more sense. You could do that more easily with super strength, but still.
I just like that Byron is basically as strong as Clark. That's really strong. 10
Yeah.
men?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? 10 men?
At the moment, yeah.
Oh.
It's really
I didn't
strong.
know that.
Well, we learn about that later.
And good thing there's like a random well on the property.
Of course, there'd be a well on the property. It's the Luthor mansion.
It's an old castle. They had to have water. They had to have a well
So
at
he
some point.
pushes him in the well and kind of pushes him up against the side, and they kind of have to struggle, and it shows that Byron's really strong.
Yeah, well, also, I don't think he's as strong as Clark, and not nearly so. There's a difference between Byron probably is willing to kill Clark. Clark isn't. And when you are restraining yourself and not using lethal force on a person in that situation, you're not using all of your strength, not even close. So or in a way, you're using more strength to avoid hurting. So there's that. Another nerd moment. But did you notice the pretty good makeup CGI effect
Yeah.
that they did
he looks
here
good.
to undo
The way
it?
he goes from full black eyes to normal.
Yeah, it was really,
Goes from
really well
Buffy
done.
back to Byron.
Yeah, it's good. And luckily for Clark, turning back to human gives him a little bit of amnesia.
Yeah.
Clark, how did this happen? What the heck? Did Byron have to just stand in there till nightfall?
Probably.
We're going to just hang out and have a little picnic action.
They just like send down some water. Like, how did they?
I'm
Hopefully
sure
it
Clark
was like-
stayed with him.
Hopefully it
Yeah.
was like 5 o'clock p.m. and they didn't have to wait too long, you know?
So they just have to hang out in the well until nightfall. They get Byron in the hospital under some blinky light box.
Blue light.
And Clark gives him a happy book.
Limericks.
Limericks?
Yeah, that is happy.
Yeah.
There was an old man from Nantucket.
Oh, yeah? How does
He
that
lived in a
end?
big old rusty bucket.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah, right. This is a not explicit podcast.
Yeah. And then Lana forgives Byron for being worse than when Clark
Immediately.
was on Red
You
K.
weren't yourself.
Hey, listen. She has a softie for monsters. Watch Beauty and the Beast by the CW.
True. Yeah. So she instantly forgives him because he wasn't himself. But when Clark wasn't himself, F you, Clark. I'm going to ride my horse away from you from the old episode. That makes me mad.
I know. I
But
agree.
that's how we drag out a romance in a television series.
It also bothers me on a whole nother level is that Lana gives Clark zero history
Right.
favor in his history.
Yeah.
Right?
Like he's
You-
always been there for her.
Yeah, built up this long time of a relationship of me being there for you, doing things, and then if something goes wrong, all of it gets erased.
I
Where
know.
Byron,
Yes.
I just met you as a kind of creepy dude. You do this to me, and don't worry, it's okay. And you think, what?
You're talking about a teenage girl trying to be rational.
True. Or teenage anyone.
Yeah. But when we get to the mansion, in the next scene, we do get to see Martha being awesome. She's helping Lionel do
I
good because
know.
it's good, not just for good publicity or good
Yes.
scores on something to get bank things.
And the chemistry.
Oh my gosh. It,
Oh!
creeped me out, and Lex is so uncomfortable.
It's so good.
It's such good
Like
acting.
they are just be together. Like I feel so bad about saying it because I like Jonathan a lot, but I think that Martha and Lionel would just be incredible together. I'm gonna keep saying it. It's so good. It's my hot take. I can't help it.
Speaking of hot takes, we get to the farm after this, and Lana comes to see Clark while he's baling hay, and they look like actual hay bales. He
Yeah.
does still look like he's not quite doing it so easily, I guess.
and he has a book of poetry.
And he honestly tells her it's not for him. And Clark
Yep.
and I relate here because it's
I
not
think
for
I
me
relate.
either.
I relate too.
Yep, that's not me.
I don't care about poetry.
And then they have a deep-hearted conversation, and she talks about how, like, if you accept every part of someone, then they have to share every part with you
In order to accept it.
In order
Like,
to accept, yeah.
And we all know, and they both know, that they're talking about Clark and Lana, not about Byron.
yeah,
It's like thinly veiled, and Clark's like, well, what if it's too risky to share? And then she says, oh, then you might be missing out on something great.
yes, huge.
And he's like, well,
foreshadowing.
here we are missing out.
And also, wow, that's a bold statement about yourself. It'd be pretty great to be with me.
I've said that to a guy before.
Did you really?
I
Yeah,
love
this guy
that.
was like, I was in college, and I was actually out of college, and this guy was in college. So I was like a year older maybe. And he hadn't really dated him much. I was actually ended up being his first kiss later on. But before that, he'd take me on a date, and then we'd go on like a few more dates. But then he'd be like, well, I just don't know. And I was like, I'm a good person. I'm a fun person. You'll never know that if you don't actually date me. You can't get to know me by taking me on a date once a month
Yeah,
and
Yes.
spending 3 hours together. Like, we needed to be dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, and then if it's not right, break up.
Yes.
And then we know.
Right.
Or else we're going to keep doing these dates once a month for a year, and then we'll kind of know, but we'll never really know. And so I told him that, and I was like, if you want to get to know me and see if I'm worth it, and I am, then date
Date
me.
me.
And so we dated for like a month, and then he was like, I'm out. And I was like, okay, at least you tried.
at least you tried. Yeah,
No, that's got to be the way a relationship should work, right?
Yeah.
Get into it, be a part of it, all the way in, and then you go, no, this isn't it, or yes, this is it.
Right.
You can't make that decision from afar.
And that's kind of how the episode ends with we should date Clark, but no, let's not, because you're not honest with me. And Byron's going to get help.
I really enjoyed this episode. I love a good Halloween episode.
It was fun.
I thought Byron was darling. The actor did amazing. I thought the chemistry between Lionel and
Martha.
Martha, I can't do it, but it was such good acting.
I'm
Oh my
I'm for
goodness.
it.
You
I
might get
shouldn't
on
be.
board more as you watch the show, I guess.
Yeah.
Music in Nocturne, we have Don't Ask Me by OK Go, Underneath It All by No Doubt, Nocturne in C minor by Chopin.
That's what Lionel's playing on the piano, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course he is.
Ooh.
Crazy Richie by Cactus Grove and Love Song by Sheila Nichols.
So what'd you guys think of this episode? Was it super or man, Daniel?
I think it's an important one to watch because you need to get the plot point of Martha starting to work for Lionel. I think that's really good, but that's the only reason I would watch this episode my first time through. I didn't really like it. Didn't have that much fun.
Oh, I loved it. I think you get to see sidekick Pete. Awesome.
Yeah.
You get to see Clark fighting someone equally as strong as him. Normally, it's just hasn't really been much of a fight. Most of these things are just dumb people. Or he's only sick because of kryptonite. There was no kryptonite in this episode.
It's true, and he wasn't a meteor freak either. It was some other
side
experiment.
effect.
It wasn't meteor
I mean,
rock
there
stuff.
might have been meteor rocks in the drug, but irrelevant. So I liked that we had this villain who wasn't a villain. Normally we have these evil people. No part of Byron was evil. He was never trying to hurt anyone, really, except for right at the end with the Luthers. But then again, he wasn't trying to hurt them either. He was just trying to get some answers.
It's just rage.
But
Yeah.
who would
Yeah.
be sad if the Luthers got hurt anyway?
I would. I liked Martha and Lionel's chemistry blowing my mind every minute they're together on screen. I love anytime Lionel's a major player in an episode. His blind acting, incredible. I loved the circle shot around the piano. Lex was barely in it, which made me sad, but he was good. I liked Chloe's seductive, flirty hair flippy and her bare shoulders.
Daniel did too.
Shh.
I mean, I just thought it was a great episode.
Yeah.
Super.
I'm going to say man because I didn't feel much from it, but that's just me.
This is a very episode for me. I think you could even skip it.
Oh,
I know there's the key point that Martha starts to work for Lionel. That's about it. If I were to summarize
and you
what
will
you
get
need,
more of them. So
right. So this is if someone were to say, "Can you just sum up what I need to know from this episode?" Martha started working for Lionel. That's it. That's the only point that you get out of this episode. There are some moments that make it fun, but no, this is a man episode for me.
I loved this episode. I would watch it again. I think it's man. Same. You could skip it, but I had so much fun.
That's great. Well, on that fun bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you for remembering Smallville with us. Join us next week when
we have another double feature
where Clark writes a paper
and Jonathan steals a truck from a dead man.
Don't go away just yet. You've got to listen to the song we promised to show you at the beginning of the episode. Check it out now.
Four friends on a mission: Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. Talking Smallville every week. The podcast a gem. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the world we find our thrill. Heroes fly and legends grow. Stories shared, they make it flow. From Clark Kent to Lex's schemes, they uncover every dream. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the world we find our thrill. Keep watching tales of old. Their voices pure gold. Every twist, every turn. With them there's much to learn. Smallville nights we laugh out loud. Every week they make us proud. Daniel, Nicole, Brad, and Kim. In the